Welcome in, everyone. If you are here, you are in the perfect place to improve your spoken English and really build up that speaking confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. We are so glad you are joining us today.
So today's deep dive is all about cafe vocabulary, slow and easy for beginners. And our mission is pretty simple. We want to help you talk about cafes, order drinks, and, just express your opinions in English.
Right, and to do it with simple, clear, and totally natural phrasing, nothing robotic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I want to start by having you, the listener, picture this. You are traveling abroad. Maybe you are in London or New York.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Right. It's a crisp morning. You are walking down a beautiful street, and you spot the perfect little corner cafe.
I can picture it perfectly.
The door is propped open, and that incredible scent of roasted espresso is just spilling out onto the sidewalk. So you decide to treat yourself.
As you should.
You walk in, totally confident, knowing exactly what you want to order. But the second you step up to the counter, the barista smiles, asks a super simple question, and your brain just completely flatlines.
Oh no, the classic counter freeze.
It is the worst. The English vocabulary you studied for years just vanishes. You panic. You end up pointing at some random pastry, grunting the word coffee, and fleeing the scene in shame.
I mean, we have all been there. It's so real.
You leave feeling just deeply frustrated because logically, you have way more English in your head than what just came out of your mouth. Why does this happen?
Well, it is the ultimate frustration for language learners, and it's something we see constantly. But I want to reassure you, that feeling of freezing at the counter has nothing to do with your intelligence.
Right. Or your vocabulary size, right?
Exactly. It has everything to do with cognitive load and how the brain processes language when it's under a stress response.
And that is exactly what we are going to dismantle today. We aren't just going to give you a boring list of words to memorize.
Please, no more vocabulary lists.
No, we are looking under the hood of these cafe interactions. We want to show you how to use simple, pre-learned blocks of language so you never freeze at that counter again.
Yeah, we are going to map out the psychology of speaking English in public, but focusing on natural, everyday phrasing, not the stiff textbook stuff.
Because the goal isn't just to be understood, right? The goal is to actually feel comfortable while doing it.
Precisely. You want to feel like yourself.
So let's go back to that opening scenario. When a learner steps up to the counter and their mind goes totally blank, what is actually happening on a neurological level?
Well, when you step up to order, you suddenly feel the pressure of the interaction. Even if the barista is super friendly, your brain registers this as a high-stakes performance moment.
So it's basically stage fright.
It is stage fright. A tiny spike of cortisol, that's the stress hormone, hits your system. And when that happens, your prefrontal cortex starts to shut down.
And that's the part of the brain that does all the heavy lifting, right?
Exactly. It's responsible for complex problem solving and constructing new grammatical sentences from scratch. So if you are standing there trying to remember a grammar rule
While also trying to remember the noun for milk.
and calculating the social dynamic, yeah, your working memory just overloads. It crashes, literally exactly like a computer with too many tabs open.
That makes so much sense. It's like trying to build an airplane while you're actively flying it. Native speakers aren't doing that, are they?
Not at all. Native speakers rely almost entirely on what we call chunking. They use procedural memory.
Chunking. I love that word. What does that mean in practice?
Instead of building a sentence word by word, native speakers have pre-packaged, ready-to-go blocks of language. Entire phrases are just stored in their brain as a single item.
So today, we're going to help you build out that inventory of chunks. And to anchor all this, we're going to follow a story from our source material about two coworkers, David and Aaron.
It's a great little story, very relatable.
It's just a completely normal day. They've been working hard at the office, they are exhausted, and they decide to step out for a break at a cozy cafe right around the corner.
And we are going to follow their exact conversational path today, from walking through the doors to tasting their food.
Because a cafe is a low-stakes environment that strangely creates really high anxiety for learners. So following David and Aaron gives us a blueprint for how a natural interaction flows.
Right, no unnecessary complications, just easy, everyday English.
So David and Aaron are wrapping up at the office. David is looking totally drained. He turns to Aaron and uses this great, simple phrase. He says, "It's been a long day. I really need a break."
Such a natural chunk, and Aaron suggests, let's go to a cafe.
So they arrive, they step through the door, and Aaron looks around and says, "It's very cozy in here. It smells like fresh coffee."
Those opening lines are fundamentally important. I want you to notice how Erin grounds herself in the environment. It's very cozy in here.
Cozy is such a great word. It's incredibly common in spoken English, isn't it?
Oh, very common. It implies warmth, safety, and just a pleasant, relaxed atmosphere. But there's a deeper linguistic mechanism happening here.
Which is what? The act of just narrating your surroundings.
Yes, exactly. And I think a lot of learners skip this step entirely. They focus purely on the transaction of buying the coffee, and they completely ignore the environment.
Well, yeah, they are just laser focused on the menu. But from a psychological perspective, describing the space out loud serves as a sort of linguistic warm-up, doesn't it?
Precisely. We just talked about the brain freezing up. When you walk into a new environment and just gently observe
Like
things,
saying the tables are nice?
or the chairs look comfortable, yeah, you are easing your brain into the English language without any pressure. You are pulling up vocabulary at your own pace.
Before you ever even have to interact with the barista, you are warming up the engine.
You are. You really are.
But I see learners trap themselves here constantly. They walk into a beautiful cafe, and instead of just saying, it looks nice, they search their brain for some massive multi-syllable word.
Oh, absolutely. They want to say, the aesthetic ambiance of this establishment is profoundly pleasing.
Right. And when they can't remember how to say that, they just stay completely silent. Why do we feel this need to abandon simple words the moment we try speaking a new language?
Honestly, it is an ego trap. Adults are used to being highly articulate and sophisticated in their native language.
So when they switch to English, they feel vulnerable.
Exactly. They feel that if they use a simple word like nice or cozy, people will think they are unintelligent. But that assumption is completely backward.
How so?
Simple vocabulary is the bedrock of natural communication. Think about the physical space of that cafe. The most comfortable place to sit isn't some stiff, ornate throne, right?
No, it's usually a simple, soft armchair.
Right. Simple vocabulary acts like that armchair. It makes you comfortable and it puts the listener at ease. Overcomplicating your adjectives just makes the interaction feel rigid.
I love that visual. Simple words are the comfortable armchairs of conversation. And the way those simple words are delivered really matters too.
Oh, absolutely. Delivery is huge.
When Erin walks in, she says, "It smells like fresh coffee." Let's look at the mechanics of how a native speaker actually pronounces that, because they certainly aren't pausing between every single word like a robot.
Right. They aren't saying it smells fresh coffee. This brings us to a crucial concept in spoken English called connected speech, specifically elision and linking.
I feel like learners often believe they have to pronounce every single consonant perfectly clearly to be understood.
Yeah, they do. But native speakers prioritize flow. If you say, it smells like fresh coffee with a heavy stop after every word, you actually create vocal friction. It takes more physical effort.
So what is actually happening in the mouth when Erin says, "smells like"?
The consonant sound at the end of the first word links directly to the consonant sound of the next. The is at the end of smells pushes right up against the L in like.
So instead of two distinct words, it sounds like one unit. Smells like.
Exactly. It smells like fresh coffee. The goal isn't to speak rapidly. Speed is not fluency. The goal is simply to remove the micropauses between the words.
I kind of think of it like ice skating. You aren't necessarily sprinting across the ice. You are just gliding smoothly from one foot to the other.
Gliding, not sprinting. That is a beautiful way to think about it.
Okay, so David and Erin have warmed up their English. They're gliding through the cozy cafe. And they find a clean table by the window.
And they sit down and pick up the menu.
Which brings us to the next massive cognitive hurdle for any learner: decoding the options. Our source material outlines the typical menu: lattes, cappuccinos, espressos, hot drinks, iced drinks. It's just a wall of information.
It really is. And it often includes loan words from Italian, which just compounds the confusion. You are trying to process English sizes, Italian coffee names, and preparation methods all at once.
Decision fatigue sets in immediately. And David represents the perfect learner moment here. He looks at the menu and admits he just doesn't know.
I love that he admits it.
Yeah. He asks Erin, what is the difference between a latte and a cappuccino? Now, Erin's answer is a total masterclass in explaining things without complex jargon.
What does she say?
She says, a latte has more milk. A cappuccino has more foam on top.
See, Erin bypasses all the technical barista terminology. She doesn't talk about espresso extraction or microfoam ratios. She isolates the single defining variable: milk versus foam.
Which is such a vital communication strategy. When you are explaining a concept in a second language, you have to resist the urge to translate the full complexity of your native thought.
You really do. You have to boil it down to its most basic components.
But how do you gracefully set up an explanation like that? Because sometimes as a learner, you find yourself cornered. Someone asks you to explain a cultural dish and you freeze.
You use a framing phrase to buy yourself time and to manage the listener's expectations. The absolute best chunk for this is the simple way to think about it is.
The simple way to think about it is, wow, that is the phenomenal tool. It's almost like a pressure release valve.
Exactly. When you use that phrase, you are actively telling the listener, hey, I'm going to use basic terms now, so bear with me. It gives you the freedom to be less precise.
So if we apply this to the menu, you could explain the drinks using an analogy, right?
Yeah, let's try it. The simple way to think about it is like a family tree of coffee. Espresso is the small, intense, strong parent.
Okay, the base.
Right. A latte is the gentle cousin. It takes that strong espresso but drowns it in lots of hot milk. And a cappuccino is right in the middle. It has milk, but it's crowned with a thick layer of light, airy foam.
Notice how we are mapping unknown concepts to very basic, universally understood words. Small, strong, milk, foam. You don't need to be a barista to communicate the reality of the drink.
Not at all.
And there is a great side lesson here for our listeners. When you use a phrase like, the simple way to think about it is totally fine if your brain pauses. If you say or it doesn't mean your English is failing.
We really need to normalize the pause. Native speakers use filler words like constantly. It is literally a biological necessity.
Right. It signals to the other person, hey, I still have the floor, I am still talking, but my brain is just fetching the next piece of data.
Exactly. Do not view a pause as a defect in your fluency. It is a completely natural part of human speech processing.
Okay, so David and Aaron have decoded the menu. They know what the drinks are. Now they have to decide what they actually want.
Always the hardest part.
In the story, David is a purist. He wants his coffee hot, strong, and black. Absolutely no milk, no sugar. But Aaron is the opposite. She wants an iced latte cold, smooth, with milk, and just a little bit of sugar.
This stage of the interaction really highlights how to express specific preferences, which honestly requires a lot of nuance.
It does. It's one thing to know the vocabulary words for sugar and milk.
Yeah.
It is an entirely different skill to combine them into a clear, polite boundary.
And this is where we see a lot of learners default to the path of least resistance. If you ask a learner how they take their coffee, they will often just shrug and say, I like coffee.
Right. They won't mention the sugar. They won't specify the temperature because expanding on the sentence feels way too risky. They're afraid of messing up the grammar.
Even if they just want to say they don't want sugar, they avoid it.
But let me challenge this from a cultural perspective for a second. Is it possible that learners stay quiet because in many cultures, it is considered impolite to be highly specific or demanding?
Oh, that is a profound point. In many high-context cultures, the polite thing to do is to simply accept whatever is handed to you as a guest or customer.
Right, making specific demands is seen as a burden.
Exactly. However, in Anglo cultures, particularly in the US, the UK, or Canada, explicit communication is highly valued. It is an individualistic society.
So the barista actually wants to customize the experience for you.
They do. If you don't tell them exactly what you want, you are actually making their job harder because then they have to guess. Being specific is not seen as rude. It is seen as helpful clarity.
Okay, so stating your preference is actually an act of cultural competence. But how do we do it politely? Because if a barista asks if I want milk and I just shout no milk, that does sound aggressive.
It sounds very aggressive because it lacks linguistic softeners. In English, we use mitigation strategies to soften our requests. You don't just say no.
You use phrases from David and Aaron's story.
Exactly. You say just black coffee, nothing else. Or, if you want something, you use the chunk, just a little. Erin wants sugar, but she softens it by saying just a little sugar.
Nothing else. Just a little. These are fantastic chunks because they don't require any complex verb conjugations at all.
They are so easy to use.
Let's look at how we can upgrade a learner's typical response. Let's say someone offers you a drink. A learner might just say, I like coffee. It is grammatically flawless, but conversationally dead.
It really gives the other person very little to work with. A simple upgrade involves attaching a because clause to share a bit of your internal state.
Give me an example.
Instead of, I like coffee, try saying, I prefer hot coffee because I need the energy. You are no longer just stating a fact. You are sharing a micro-story about your day.
What if we take the negative scenario? The barista is holding a jug of whole milk. The weak, panicky response is, no milk. How do we upgrade that using our softeners?
You apply a polite boundary chunk. No milk, thank you. Just black, please. The word just does a lot of heavy lifting in spoken English.
It minimizes the demand, right?
Exactly. It implies, I require very little effort from you.
I want you, the listener, to actively engage with this right now. Think about the hot drink you make for yourself in the morning. Do you load it with dairy? Do you drink it bitter and black?
Now think of your preference.
And now, out loud, practice framing it using that just softener. I like my coffee with just a little. Getting your physical mouth to produce those sounds is the key to that procedural memory we talked about.
Exactly. Don't just think it in your head. Speak it out loud.
All right, this leads us to the climax of the story, the high-stress zone. Erin leaves the table and approaches the clean, modern counter to place the order for both of them.
Here we go.
She needs to request a medium iced latte with a little sugar, a medium hot black coffee, a sandwich, and a piece of cake.
This is the exact moment where that prefrontal cortex we talked about earlier tries to completely sabotage the learner. The hands get sweaty, the heartbeat accelerates,
Why does it happen right at this moment?
because they suddenly treat a coffee order like a university grammar exam. They stand there looking at the cashier, and an internal monologue starts screaming.
Okay, I am the subject. The coffee is the direct object.
Should I use the conditional tense? Is would like better than could I possibly have? And while this mathematical equation is happening in their head, the silence stretches out. The panic sets in.
Which is completely unnecessary. Native speakers bypass all of that grammatical math by using a single multi-purpose tool. They use a chunk.
And the undisputed king of ordering chunks in the English language is, can I have a bowl?
And I have full. That reminds me of learning to play the piano. When you first learn, you have to look at the sheet music, figure out where your thumb goes, where your index finger goes.
Right, you painstakingly press 3 individual keys to make a C chord.
That is exactly what learners are doing with grammar. But once you are a skilled piano player, you don't think about the individual fingers anymore. You see a C on the page, and your hand just automatically strikes the chord.
That is a brilliant analogy. Can I have I is a linguistic chord. You aren't processing the modal verb can, the pronoun I, the verb have, and the article a. You are just striking the chord. Can I have a?
It just operates as a single unit of meaning representing, please give me.
And the beauty of this chord is that it is infinitely modular. You strike the chord, and then you just attach the noun. Can I have a latte? Can I have a napkin?
Can I have a minute to think? Let's demonstrate this modularity. I'm going to play the barista. I'll throw some standard questions your way, and I want you to rely entirely on simple chunks to navigate it. No complex grammar allowed.
Let's do it.
Hi there, welcome in. What can we get started for you today?
Hi. Can I have an iced latte, please?
Sure thing. What size on that latte?
A medium, please.
Got it. Medium iced latte. Did you want any food with that today?
Yes. Can I have a piece of cake?
Now, listener, I want you to pay attention to the rhythm of that interaction. Notice that the expert did not try to speed up to match my fast customer service voice.
No, learners often have this huge misconception that fluency means talking as fast as humanly possible.
The speed is actually the enemy of clarity, especially when you are speaking a second language in a noisy environment.
Rushing just makes you stumble over your pronunciation, and it signals nervousness. Notice how I naturally inserted micro-pauses. Yes, can I have a piece of cake?
Those pauses don't make you sound incompetent. They make you sound grounded and confident. You are taking up space in the conversation.
You own the space.
So Erin strikes her linguistic chords, she places the order, and the items are locked in. But she isn't safe yet. The transaction phase isn't over.
Nope, the cashier now takes control.
To finalize the payment and the logistics. In the story, the cashier asks, is this for here or to go? The total is $12.50. The cashier asks about a receipt and finally says, please have a seat.
This is often where the wheels completely fall off for a learner. They survived the ordering phase because they initiated it. They were prepared to say latte.
But they are entirely unprepared to be interrogated about receipts and seating arrangements.
And the problem is compounded by the fact that cashiers deliver these logistical questions at warp speed.
Why do they do that? Why don't they just enunciate?
Because of repetition. The cashier is not having a conscious conversation with you. They have said, would you like a receipt? 400 times since they clocked in at 7 a.m.
Their brain is on autopilot.
It's like a practice sports play. The cashier serves the ball over the net. They expect you to just instinctively hit it back. They aren't anticipating a philosophical pause.
And the way they serve that ball linguistically can be incredibly confusing. It's due to how fast English words blend together. Let's look at that classic question, for here or to go.
Oh, this is a great example.
If a learner reads that on paper, they know exactly what it means. But that is not what the learner hears in reality, is it?
Not even close. When a native speaker says a routine phrase quickly, the vowel sounds undergo a massive transformation. This is a process called vowel reduction, where the vowels collapse into a lazy, neutral sound called a schwa.
So the word for loses its hard or and becomes fur.
Right. The word or becomes and the word to becomes ta.
So a beautifully distinct sentence, for, here, or to, go,
Row.
morphs into this bizarre singular sound, for here or to go.
Exactly, for here to go. And when the learner's brain hears that blur of sound, it desperately searches its internal dictionary for the word fair cargo.
Which obviously doesn't exist.
It doesn't find it, the pattern recognition fails, and the learner just freezes in total panic.
Try saying that out loud, listeners. For here to go. It really helps demystify the sound when you produce it yourself. But practically speaking, what is a learner supposed to do when they get hit with a wall of blended sounds at the cash register?
If you genuinely have no idea what they just mumbled,
Yeah, what is the protocol?
the protocol is to reclaim your power in the conversation. You have the absolute right to ask for clarification. Native speakers mishear each other constantly.
That's so true. If a native speaker didn't catch it, they wouldn't panic. They would just say, sorry.
So give yourself permission to do exactly the same. Smile and use a simple clarification chunk. Sorry, could you repeat that? Or could you say that a bit slower?
You are not failing an English test. You are just managing a communication breakdown.
That is incredibly liberating to realize. You have permission to say, sorry, I missed that.
Okay, so Aaron pays the $12.50, declines the receipt with a simple, I don't need a receipt, and they take their food back to the window table. Now we move into the sensory phase, tasting and sharing opinions.
The fun part.
David has to wait a moment because his black coffee is piping hot. But when they finally dig in, they start describing their experience. Aaron notes that the sandwich has soft bread, fresh vegetables.
David describes his cake as sweet and soft.
Aaron evaluates her iced latte and says, it's sweet, but not too sweet.
Let's really focus on those descriptive words. Soft, fresh, sweet. These are basic sensory adjectives, but they are incredibly powerful tools for avoiding what we call the good trap.
Ah, the good trap. This is a massive pitfall. A learner goes to a restaurant, takes a bite of an incredible complex dish, and the waiter asks, how is everything tasting?
And the learner panics about making a grammatical error, searches for the safest possible word, and just says, it is good.
And they do it for everything. How's the movie? Good. How's the weather? Good. How's the coffee? Good.
It is a protective mechanism to minimize cognitive load.
But let me play devil's advocate here. From a purely pragmatic survival level standpoint, what is actually wrong with good? If I tell the barista the coffee is good, I have successfully communicated that I am not angry, the coffee is not poisoned, and I am satisfied. Mission accomplished, right?
Well, technically, yes.
Why exert the mental energy to hunt down a word like fresh?
Because language is not just about transmitting data, it is about social bonding. When you reply with a flat, it is good, you are effectively putting up a stop sign.
You aren't giving them anything to work with.
You give the other person zero material to respond to, they just nod and say, great, but adjectives act as conversational bridges. When Erin says the latte is sweet but not too sweet, she is sharing her internal sensory experience. She is making an observation.
Which invites David to respond with his own observation.
Exactly. He might say, I know what you mean. I hate when they put too much syrup in it.
You are creating a hook for the other person to grab onto. Specificity invites reciprocation.
You are opening a door instead of closing it.
Let's do some practical coaching on this. We're going to upgrade a weak, safe sentence into a conversational bridge. Imagine a friend asks you, how is the cake you ordered?
Okay, the default cognitive load-saving answer is, the cake is good. It's technically true, but a dead end.
How do we upgrade that? Using the descriptive vibe we saw with David and Aaron.
You force yourself to isolate two specific sensory details and attach a strong positive emotion. So instead of good, you say, this cake is incredibly sweet and soft. It's amazing.
Sweet and soft. It's amazing. You are painting a picture. And I really want to challenge the listener here.
Yeah.
For the next week, whenever you eat or drink something, ban the word good from your internal dictionary.
That's a great challenge.
Look at your plate and force your brain to find the specific adjective. Is the toast crunchy? Is the soup salty? Is the coffee bitter? Even if you never say it out loud to anyone, forcing your brain to categorize the sensory experience in English is fantastic practice.
It builds the neural pathways so that when someone does ask you, the specific adjective is right there on the tip of your tongue.
Which brings us to the conclusion of David and Aaron's cafe break. They have finished their drinks, they feel rejuvenated, and as they prepare to head back to the office, they start planning their next visit.
They talk about what they want to try next time. Maybe an espresso, a cappuccino, or some of the muffins they saw in the display case.
They use forward-looking chunks like, let's come again soon, and next time I want to try.
This is a textbook example of how to gracefully close out a social interaction. You signal that the current event is ending, but you validate the experience by looking forward to repeating it. Next time I want to try implies that the cafe was a success.
But looking at this from a broader macro level of language learning, this idea of coming back next time is a perfect metaphor for the learning process itself, isn't it?
It really is.
We have discussed an immense amount of mechanics today: cortisol responses, chunking, vowel reduction, conversational bridges. How does a learner actually turn this theoretical knowledge into real-world capability?
Because listening to us talk about it is one thing, but standing at a counter in London is another.
Exactly. The secret lies in spaced repetition and simulating the environment. Language practice is exactly like visiting a local cafe. You don't just visit a cafe once in your life, drink one cup of coffee, and declare, well, I've mastered cafes, I never need to go back.
No, you make it a habit. You go on a Tuesday morning, you go on a Sunday afternoon. It becomes part of the rhythm of your life.
Language acquisition requires that exact same rhythm. You cannot treat English as an academic subject that you only interact with when you sit down at a desk with a textbook.
So how does someone living in a non-English speaking country who maybe doesn't have access to a hip London cafe or native speaking friends simulate that environment?
Yeah, how do they build that rhythm if they're just making instant coffee in their own kitchen?
You have to bypass your brain's internal filter by narrating your life out loud. You become your own conversational partner.
Narrating your life out loud. I want to emphasize the power of this. It sounds slightly eccentric, but what it means in practice is that you literally speak to yourself while performing mundane tasks.
When you walk into your kitchen tomorrow morning to make your coffee, you speak the actions.
You hold the mug and say, I am making hot coffee. As you pour the milk, you say, I am adding just a little milk. When you sit at your kitchen table, you say, this chair is very comfortable.
A lot of learners resist this. They feel incredibly silly talking to an empty room. But from a neurological standpoint, your brain does not know the difference between talking to a barista and talking to your wall.
Wait, really? Your brain treats it the same.
Yes. Your vocal cords are still vibrating. Your tongue and lips are still forming the English phonetic shapes. You are building the physical muscle memory required for fluency.
That's fascinating.
If you practice saying, can I have a haul, 50 times to your refrigerator, then when you finally stand in front of a real human being in New York, your mouth will automatically strike that linguistic chord before your brain even has time to panic.
That is the ultimate goal. Training your physical mouth to lead the way when your conscious brain freezes. And to help our listeners achieve exactly that, we are introducing a highly structured, actionable roadmap.
We don't want you to just absorb this deep dive passively and then forget it.
You have designed a concrete 7-day speaking challenge based entirely on the cafe vocabulary and mechanics we've just unpacked.
This is about transforming passive comprehension into active skill. It only requires a few minutes of focused effort each day.
Let's break down the architecture of this 7-day challenge. Day 1 is all about auditory immersion. We want you to listen to the dialogue and the chunking examples we've provided again, but crucially, do not try to memorize anything.
Do not take notes. Just let the rhythm of the English wash over you. Focus on the meaning and the tone. Listen to how the words flow together in connected speech.
Then, day 2 is where we transition into active analysis. Replay the audio, but this time, you are hunting for tools. Get a physical notebook and a pen. Write down 8 specific useful chunks.
Write down just a little. Write down, the simple way to think about it is, the physical act of writing creates a kinesthetic link in your brain, anchoring the phrase deeper into your memory.
Day 3 introduces the concept of mirroring, specifically shadowing. Take the phrases you wrote down and say them out loud simultaneously with the audio. Try to match our exact pacing, our intonation, and our pauses.
When we talk about elision, the smells like, or the fur here to go, try to replicate that exact lazy vowel sound. You are tuning your vocal instrument to the frequency of native speech.
Day 4 is where we remove the training wheels. Put your notebook away, stand up in the center of your room, and talk out loud about your favorite real-world cafe or your favorite specific drink for 2 uninterrupted minutes.
It is going to be messy. You will forget words. You will stumble. That is the entire point. The goal is endurance. Force yourself to keep speaking, relying on those simple chunks to bridge the gaps in your vocabulary.
Day 5 is the feedback loop. Grab your smartphone, open the voice memo app, and hit record. Speak for 1 minute describing your coffee order using adjectives other than good. Then you have to do the hardest part.
Listen to the recording.
Yes. Do not listen to judge your accent. Listen objectively, like an athletic coach watching game tape. Notice exactly where your sentence broke down.
Did you freeze when trying to describe the temperature? Did you struggle with the word foam? Identifying the friction point is the first step to eliminating it.
Day 6 focuses on the art of circumlocution, talking around a word you don't know. Retell the same topic out loud, but intentionally force yourself to use even simpler English than you think you need.
If your brain is trying to construct a complex sentence like, the ambient lighting created a serene environment, stop yourself. Shrink the English. Say, the room was warm and quiet. Train your brain to immediately seek the simplest, most efficient path to meaning.
And finally, Day 7, the synthesis. Hold a mini role-play conversation out loud. Play both the cashier and the customer, serve the ball over the net, and hit it back.
What can I get for you? Can I have a medium hot coffee for here or to go? For here, please. Run the script until the cognitive load feels absolutely zero.
If you commit to this 7-day sequence, your psychological relationship with speaking English will fundamentally shift. It comes down to a core belief that every learner must embrace.
Which is that confidence is not a prerequisite for speaking. You cannot wait until you feel 100% confident to open your mouth. Confidence is the reward you get after you survive speaking while terrified.
Confidence is the reward you get after you survive. That is profound. It flips the entire traditional learning model upside down.
You act first, and the emotion follows the action. It is the only scientifically backed way to acquire fluency. You must embrace the friction.
As we bring this deep dive to a close, let's take a macro look at the journey we've just been on. We started by diagnosing the counterfreeze, identifying that the problem isn't a lack of vocabulary, but an overload of cognitive stress.
We followed David and Aaron into a cozy cafe using environmental descriptions to warm up our declarative memory.
We decoded the menu using framing phrases like, the simple way to think about it is, to map complex ideas to simple concepts.
We tackled the cultural expectations of expressing preferences, learning how to use softeners like just a little to be both specific and polite.
We unpacked the mechanics of the transaction itself, treating can I have of all, not as a grammar puzzle, but as a modular linguistic chord.
We explored the auditory illusion of fast native speech, breaking down how vowel reduction turns for here or to go into for here or to go, and we validated your right to simply ask people to repeat themselves.
We dismantled the good trap, proving that specific sensory adjectives are essential for building conversational bridges. And we gave you a blueprint for building procedural muscle memory through a 7-day solo practice challenge.
It is a comprehensive toolkit. But remember, a tool only has value if you pick it up and swing it.
Which brings me to a final provocative thought I want to leave you with. Throughout this deep dive, we have focused intensely on the mechanics of communicating with other people, how the cashier hears you, how your friend understands your preferences.
Right, the external communication.
But there is another crucial conversation happening simultaneously, and that is the conversation you are having with yourself. Think about your inner dialogue when you make a mistake in English. Is that internal voice critical, harsh, and punishing? Or is it patient and encouraging?
That is such an important question.
Tomorrow morning, when you are holding that warm cup of coffee in your hands, take a moment to listen to how you speak to yourself. Because if you are constantly berating yourself for not nailing a word, you are spiking your own cortisol and shutting down your own prefrontal cortex.
You are making the process harder on yourself.
How will you intentionally change your inner dialogue tomorrow? Can you shift from, my English is terrible, to, I am learning, I am practicing, and it smells like fresh coffee?
The language of your internal monologue dictates your external success. Cultivate patience with yourself. You are fundamentally rewiring your adult brain to process a new reality. That deserves respect.
It truly does. And we respect the effort you are putting in just by being here, listening, and engaging with these concepts. Keep narrating your life. Keep building those linguistic chords, and keep making those messy, glorious mistakes.
Embrace mess.
If you found value in this detailed breakdown and you want to continue optimizing your language learning journey with easy, natural, and highly analytical deep dives just like this one, please make sure to subscribe to English on Mic and leave a like.
It is the best way to ensure you don't miss our next session, and it helps us continue to build these resources for you. We are so grateful to be a part of your daily practice rhythm. Keep using your simple chunks, and don't forget to normalize the pause.
Until next time, stay curious, be kind to your inner learner, and enjoy your next cup of coffee.